up your frozen dinners, grab your TV tray, and settle in for another episode of the Plus Platoon, your podcast for all things Disney Plus, brought to you by Disney Plus fans. Watch along with us every week as we cover all the new, the old, the good, and the bad on Disney Plus. So put down that remote, don't touch that dial, and welcome your fabulous Plus Platoon host.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Plus Platoon. We are a Disney Plus fan podcast that gives honest, spoiler-filled reviews of movies and shows on Disney Plus. We look at new releases, coming attractions, and we'll even go back into the vault to revisit some of the classic Disney that's on the platform. Make sure you're subscribed and you will never miss a moment. I'm going to bring in my girl, Kate. Kate, good to see you this evening.
So good to see you too, Derek. How are you?
Not too bad. Yourself?
One day at a time, living the dream. I'm excited to talk about some prop culture.
Yeah, I get that too. So next we have got Peter. Pete, glad to have you with us.
Hey everybody, let's talk about prop culture.
Okay, I don't get the reference.
So good.
It was song pop music I was trying to do. It wasn't very good though.
It was good.
You got it?
I liked it.
Sure.
Yeah, I got it.
Anyway, last but certainly not least, this week we've got Steve. Steve, glad to have you with us.
Hey everyone, Pete, I got it.
Thank goodness.
I guess I'm just out of it then, which, is nothing new. Please, if you have not already, like, subscribe, share. That way you're never going to miss any episodes, good or bad, about what we're watching. So this week, for the past several weeks, we've had, to put politely, a series of clunkers. A series of shows that nobody really liked. So we pulled out this week a Diamond in the Rough, Prop Culture. It's a series that each episode takes a look at props from significant Disney movies through the years. Focuses a little bit more on more recent stuff, but really late 80s, early 90s type section. There's a couple shows in there. And for full disclosure, all of us had seen this before and all of us had liked it. So that's why we decided to do it this week, is because we all knew we were going to like it. So there's a little spoiler alert on what we think about it. It's going to be a fairly positive review, but after what we've already talked about, after the past month, we needed something positive. So, Pete, I'm going to start with you. What makes this series a prized possession? What's great about this series?
Well, I think if you're a fan of movies and like the making of movies as well, I think you have to be a fan of like the behind the scenes stuff. But it's really cool to see, because a lot of these episodes are, even though you said 80s, there's some older, they go back to Mary Poppins, some a little newer, Pirates of the Caribbean is only about 20 years old, but still, going back and digging up these archives and seeing things that were in the movies. And then I think the best part about it is then they get people that were involved with the movie to talk about the item. So it isn't just, here's Jack Sparrow's hat. Here's the person that designed the hat talking about the process they went through and how they were involved in everything. And I think it makes for a very entertaining show. It's done very tightly. Each episode is only about 30 minutes. So there's not a lot of flab in the episodes. They go by pretty fast. I think that was smart too. And I don't know. It's just super interesting. I mean, I'd seen most of the episodes before, and just over the last couple of days, I think there's 8 episodes total, right?
Something along those lines, yeah.
Yeah, I rewatched 5 of them, or watched or rewatched 5 of them, and it was. I don't know what to say. It's really the way they present it is very interesting. So I really enjoyed it. What about you, Steve?
I love this series. Second time I watched it, the parts I really enjoy are when they talk about props that explain how they pulled something off in the movie. Especially like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, how like the handcuffs were sort of wired. So when they were animating Roger Rabbit into it, that sort of stuff. Those ones I really enjoyed, or how they pulled off the blinds when he went flying through the blinds, how that was pulled off. I found that really fascinating when here's this prompt and they're showing you sort of the behind the scenes of what they did to make it work. Those are probably my favorite. So
Cool.
Derek, what do you think?
I have always loved the behind the scenes making of movies, documentaries. There used to be a TV show on back in the 90s. It's like Hollywood Secrets or something like that, where they show I remember one of the episodes specifically was how they did the speed when the bus goes down, like jumps off the ramp, and then how there's a train or something. There's a subway that goes through like the bottom of a parking garage or something along those lines. They showed how they did that. So I've always loved these kind of things. Plus, most of these movies, pretty darn good movies, most of them. So
Agree.
I would argue there's a couple that aren't, but they're all movies that
Well, one of them we saw last week. So
Yeah.
I think we'll
And
agree
how
with you
did
on
we
that one.
rank that? How did we rank it there, Pete?
We averaged a 1.75. So yeah.
Woof.
yeah. They were all memorable movies. Okay, all but one of them were memorable movies. I would argue Lion Witch of the Wardrobe wasn't that memorable. And the book was way, way better. But yeah, I've loved these kind of things. They don't take it too seriously, is part of the advance. Dan Lanigan is the host for all of these. I'd never seen him in anything before, but he is a big prop collector. So he was a fairly natural choice as a host if you weren't going to get some kind of celebrity, which I think seeing his enthusiasm was better than any kind of celebrity you would have seen there. So it's just one of those where you don't have to think. You can just sit and enjoy and watch.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very mindless, but escapist series, I would say. Kate, how about you?
So just to be clear, we're just talking about the good things right now,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Things we love. I love this show. Derek, you are 100%. Well, we're talking about good. So the only episode that I missed was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And Derek, you said that the book was better. Prince Caspian is one of the only movies I've ever walked out of. So yeah, wild, right?
Yeah, I walked out of a couple others, but yeah.
That was one of the only movies I've ever walked out of. But there are some moments in this show that are just so heartwarming. The entire Christopher Lloyd part of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where Christopher Lloyd is looking at the when he, and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the main guy's name.
Dan Lanigan. Dan.
I'm sorry?
Dan Lanigan.
Dan, okay. When Dan interviews Gonzo, listen, and they're like, what about this guy? And it's the guy who's puppeteering Gonzo. And he's like, oh, you mean the valet who parked my car? Like, just so good. And even in the Tron episode where he shows the original actor, the helmet, it's just all so it's so good. I love that they bring the actors of the movies or the kids when the kids from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids come and see the ant. Like, just watching the actors have this moment of like, man, wow, like this is, because we've all had that moment, right? That moment of seeing something from our past, seeing something from our childhood that makes us like, oh man. And then it brings up these stories that you wouldn't hear otherwise. Hearing, I could have sat and watched an entire episode just on the interview of the guy interviewing the gentleman who did the voice of Roger Rabbit. Like, that just so good. That, to me, as someone who tends to always have something on in the background on television, whether it's Disney Plus or whatever, I couldn't stop watching. Like this show is the first show in a long time that we've watched that like I didn't want to just play a game on my phone while watching it. Like I wanted, especially during the Muppets. Oh my gosh, that banjo. Are you kidding me? Especially during the Muppets episode, especially even bits and pieces of the Tron episode. The Who Framed Roger Rabbit episode. Listen, the Mary Poppins. Listen, like just so good. So good, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this, as I said, this is one that we all enjoyed. Now,
Yeah.
that being said, not everything about it was great. Not every moment of every episode was great. Steve, I'm going to go with you on this one. What about this show should have been recycled to something else?
Less costumes. I think that's sometimes where it fell off of sometimes the choices of the costumes. Like nice to see, like I recognize it. And like Kate said, sort of nice talking to the actresses that were wearing it. But where it really did really well was when they're talking about actual props and like the people who created it and how they went through that process to make it work. That's where I was the most fascinated. So when it was costumes, that's when I was starting to tune out. So I think they went sometimes a little bit too much into the costumes. There are times when the costumes did really well. Like I think about when the Pirates of the Caribbean, where they talked about it had to be made out of rubber because they were losing so many hats, so then it would float. That to me was fascinating. But the other things were like, yeah, it's a costume, whatever. So I think sometimes too much costumes.
I would agree with you on that, Steve, except for the actress who played Jane in Mary Poppins. When you saw her reaction to her costume,
Right.
that was the one to me that really set it off a little bit. To me, I had the hardest time when I didn't have any connection to the movie. Like when I didn't like the movie, I didn't like the episode. Or those were the episodes that got long. Tron.
Yeah, agreed.
Tron got long.
Mhm.
Especially when you consider it's a minute shorter than the Mary Poppins episode. So, and also another issue with the Tron one. Okay, they go through this whole thing about the ball scoop is up for auction. It's going to be, has it been verified? Has it not been verified? Whose is it? And then they never tell you who won the auction. Did they get the auction and get it to the Disney archives? They never say. They just say, "Oh, it's been up for auction," which I almost wonder if that means they didn't get it, because you would think that if they had, they would have shown them returning it to the Disney archives type thing. Yeah, it's just the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe one could have just gone away. It because, as I said, of all the movies there, it was the one that. Which one of these is not like the other? It was the one that's one of those, we have to have something from the 2000s. Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. Yeah, everyone likes cute kids. But it was, for the most part, it was great. There were just those moments of, and there were a couple times during the Pirates of the Caribbean one where I also thought it got a little long. So, but for the most part, yeah. I would also say this is not a binging show. This is not if you've seen them before, it's harder to binge them. Fact. I would say that the first time I watched this, I watched like 4 or 5 of them in a row. So if this is your first time, great. I will also say this is a repeatable show, which is one of the very few documentaries that we have said is repeatable. Yeah. This is a repeatable show. You can watch this show more than once.
But you can't binge it more than once.
It's hard to binge it more than once.
Yeah.
And because if you're binging it, you can hit the episodes that aren't that great. It's one of those, okay, fine, it's new enough, and then I'll go on to the next one. Yeah. If you're watching it again, you have a tendency to want to skip. For me, it was, I wanted to skip Chronicles of Narnia, I wanted to skip Tron, and forgive me, I wanted to skip Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, wow, really?
It's
over Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yes.
Wow.
Wow.
My name's Derek. I do not like Nightmare Before Christmas.
Is it scary to you?
No, I just don't like it.
I just know Derek doesn't like scary things like at
no,
all. So
No, I already knew Derek didn't like Nightmare Before Christmas. So.
it's more
That's so
it's
funny.
more the Tim Burton aspect of it than any kind of scary aspect of it.
That's fair.
So
That's fair.
Derek, that was not my favorite, but I was really fascinated by what they did. I didn't realize of how pushing stop motion that they had done with that. And I guess some of the, like the hill one where they showed of how it rolled out. I think not my favorite movie, but some of the steps they went through to pull off things was really fascinating.
That I would agree with. I liked the episode more than I liked the movie. So, Kate,
I agree with that.
Kate, for you, what didn't work about this show?
Yeah, Derek, you made a really, really good point when you said the movies that they chose were not the greatest movies, in my opinion, that they could have chose. I like, what is this mythical Disney archive? Is it just literally warehouses full of props?
Yes.
So
and art and scripts and
sure. So in my opinion, my humble former cast member opinion, once cast member, always cast member, but it's fine. In my opinion, they are missing a cash cow with this television show because it's going to cost them literally nothing to go into this Disney secret like Area 51 that no one and their uncle can enter unless you're wearing white gloves and a gas mask and like
and that little white
hat. You can't go in there. But I think the downer, while yes, there were absolutely points that were quite boring. I personally skipped Chronicles of Narnia. That was the one when I was like, if I don't have time to watch, that's the one I'm going to skip. Brilliant to do Who Framed Roger Rabbit because that has crazy, wacky, zany effects and all that stuff. Brilliant to do The Muppets. Brilliant to do Mary Poppins because it is so iconic. Tron, Pirates, Narnia. I mean, I can understand doing Nightmare because it is stop motion and I think that it is interesting. Go ahead, Derek.
I was like, I can see Pirates just because some of the props in Pirates
Agreed.
have become iconic to that generation.
Agreed. That's
metal
fair.
that they sell thousands of in Adventureland.
Right. That's fair.
Well,
but
I'm okay. Go ahead. Keep finishing, then I'll say something.
Well, I was just gonna say that I feel like this show would be much more popular if and I've been sitting here trying to go, okay, so what movies should they do? And I kind of have trouble coming up. Like maybe I don't know. I'll have to think on that.
And we'll get to that with the next question, really.
Perfect. So I just feel like there are better movies that they could have chosen. But if you were to sit here and go, okay, Kate, name 5, like, I don't know if I could name 5. I would have to think about it. But I think they're just missing the mark on not doing more seasons of this, especially with all of the budget cuts and everything that happened. Literally, all you have to pay is a camera guy and this Dan dude to go in and be like, I'm a prop collector and I'm going to collect props, and so I'm going to go visit the Disney archives.
And generally, prop collectors like to show off their props.
Mm-hmm.
So it isn't very hard to get them.
Star Wars. You know,
you stole my thunder.
Avengers movie. Do the first Avengers movie. Do Star Wars.
An amazing point with the Avengers movie. There's not that many practical props from Avengers movies. Think about how many. There's no anti-heads. Because as they said, it's all green foam blobs that CGI fixes later.
Yeah, I guess the movies I would want to see aren't Disney movies. Like I would want to see Back to the Future. I'd want to see Indiana Jones.
Hey. Let's wait till the next question. Okay. So let's.
Well, no, I have an answer for the next question.
Okay.
So anyway, Pete, you go.
So yeah, you just stole my thunder. It's like you're Disney, and why didn't you do a Star Wars movie? Like, you own Star Wars. You certainly, you know, I'm surprised they didn't do that. I would agree that the greatest weakness is some of the movies are not exactly at the forefront of people's thoughts, and including Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and even Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I mean, it was a big movie at the time, but I don't think a lot of people revisit that nowadays. So I think that's a little. I think that one. The Tron one was a rough one because there were so few props from the actual movie.
Yeah.
The episode was better than the movie was, but it was still probably the weakest of the episodes. So I don't know. Yeah, when I coming into this before listening to the three of you, I was like, there's nothing wrong with the show. Everything's perfect. But yeah, I would agree that some episodes are weaker than others. I didn't even mind the Narnia episode, even though I've only seen the movie once and I thought it stunk. But it did have a lot of props available. I do think it's cool when you bring the kids back as adults to look at their costumes and they kind of reminisce and things. So none of them really, like, none of the episodes struck me as bad. As you said, some of them were better than others, certainly, but none of them like I made me want to fast forward. How's that? But yeah, I mean, I guess my biggest complaint would be would be that like they probably could have picked some more interesting movies, maybe gone back a little more to some of the older stuff, but it's tough. You know, maybe like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea or something like that would have been cool. Swiss Family Robinson. I know some of us didn't like that movie, but still. So yeah, I would love to see more. And Kate, just so you know, I've been in the Disney archives, so it does exist.
Okay, how did you get in the Disney archive?
How did you get in there? Who did you kill?
I did the Backstage Magic tour, and they didn't take us into like the warehouse with all the shelves and everything part of it, but the where they're like looking at some of the stuff and you see the Disney archives and Mickey Mouse on the wall and everything. I was there. I've also been in Jim Henson Studios as part of that tour, and they let us into Brian Henson's office. So when they were visiting Brian Henson, I was like, oh, yeah. My wife and I were watching, and we're like, oh yeah, I remember all those little things.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
It's very cool. And that the Henson Studios was Charlie Chaplin's studio back in the 20s and 30s. And so there's a lot of history there, not just the Henson history, but older history as well.
Okay, Pete, was the behind the scenes tour at the Disney Studios or at Disneyland?
We went to Disney Studios. We went to as I said, we went to the Henson Studios. We went to Disneyland. We were in Disneyland for 2 or 3 days, so we did a lot of backstage at Disneyland. And we also went to WDI, Imagineering. We went to Imagineering, which was by far the most amazing thing. And they took us back to see a lot of, they showed us the original Haunted Mansion posters, like the stretching room posters, the originals. So cool. And yeah, it was, we got to meet Lucky the dinosaur, if anyone knows who that is.
I do not.
So,
okay.
Yeah, that was that. It's an Adventures by Disney tour that is still around. Okay. You can still do. It's called Backstage Magic, and if you are the type of nerd that likes this type of show, it is really amazing. So, anyways, that's off topic. So let's get back to this show.
So we are all huge Disney fans. Some of us have some collections of different movie, at least representations and such, or posters or characters that we love. And I'm going to say that was not in this was not in this series. What Disney movie prop would you like to own, Kate?
Okay, see, this is hard because my answer my knee-jerk reaction answer is I would love an original Mickey Mouse sketch drawn by Walt Disney.
Oh, then that is really rare because
Yeah.
he didn't draw many of them.
Well, he drew them for like souvenirs for people. He didn't draw many of the actual cartoon
cells.
ones, but he drew it a lot.
So
that would be cool.
Because when I think about the movies that have affected me, especially as a kid, they were all animated. And I have oh goodness, sorry. I have an autographed Belle thing by Paige O'Hara. Like I already have that. So and any other answer I would have was in the show because I would want Mary Poppins horse.
Carpet bag.
I would want her horse on the
carousel.
Thank you. Yeah. So that's hard for me. But that would probably be my answer until I can come up with something better. Pete, what about you?
I'm realizing I should have brought my replicas up here, but I have replicas of, I'm assuming this counts. I'm talking about Indiana Jones. I have replicas of the fertility statue from the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark. I just got a replica of the Staff of Ra. And I also have a replica of the Holy Grail. So that would be none of these are like movie props. These are just,
right,
replicas.
Yeah.
But to me, like one of those treasures from the Indiana Jones movies would be cool. I still don't have my Shankara stone. That's the next one I got to get. But I don't really need a crystal skull for some reason. I don't know.
Or a wheel of time or whatever it's going to be.
I haven't seen the new movie yet, so I'm gonna reserve judgment. But I mean, those are technically now Disney movies since they own Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
So those are mine. What about you, Steve?
For me, definitely something Donald Duck. If you've seen the background, I have a huge Donald Duck collection. So, like Kate, it'd probably be some sort of animated cell with Donald Duck in the background. Comes to mind is Who Framed Roger Rabbit with the dueling pianos. Yes.
That'd be cool.
Something with Donald Duck. There's no going to be actual even physical prop, so it's going to have to be an animation cell. So definitely something Donald Duck. Okay. How about you, Derek?
My initial knee-jerk reaction was the gun from Old Yeller, but I thought that was too soon. So
God, Derek.
No, kidding. I love dogs. I have one in the fireplace. No. But Pete, you mentioned, or you, Peter, can mention, go back to some of the super old movies. Most of the super old movies were animated.
Right. Yeah.
The issue. So, I mean, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea came out in 1954, and that was Treasure Island came out in 1950, and that was really the first one. But looking through some of these, and a lot of these don't have great props. I would say mine is honestly probably from a TV series. I would love a hat or mask or sword from the original Zorro series.
Wait a minute. Are we allowed to say non-Disney Plus shows? Because I've got a whole bunch of answers for that.
That is on Disney Plus.
Yeah, Zorro.
Yeah. Zorro.
Yeah, never mind.
It was actually one of the first it was like the first big series that Disney put out. Kate?
I would like to change my answer.
Of course you would.
I would want Annette Funicello's ears. Her mouse ears. Or yeah, that's what I would want. Annette Funicello's Mouseketeer ears.
Okay. I would also say if I have to go from a movie, probably if I could find an original coconut bomb from Swiss Family Robinson, that would just be really, really super cool. And now, obviously, it's not going to blow up or anything, but to have one of the original props of the coconut bombs, growing up, that movie was such an integral part of my childhood because we would watch it and then we would play Swiss Family Robinson on the stairs down to our basement. So with like baseball bats for the logs, stuffed animals for the rocks, and it was.
So you'd trip your parents down the basement stairs?
No, my brother and I would take turns being the pirates and being the family.
Ah, I see.
So, but I mean, there's other great props. I mean, an original Love Bug.
That's what I was thinking, Derek. Yeah.
Love Bug would have been a great. Well, I mean, it's just the car, I guess.
The car.
What I was thinking.
Go ahead.
Sorry, what I was thinking. No one mentioned this as a prop, but we talked about the animated movies. But some of those early animated movies, where at the opening they have the like
books.
Cinderella has the book and it opens up or whatever.
I've seen a couple of those. Sometimes they rotate those through the guest services area at Hollywood Studios.
Yeah,
I saw the original Cinderella book at Hollywood Studios in the guest services area, just off to the left of the entrance.
Yeah, but one of those would be pretty cool too.
Yes, I would agree with that. There's always, an original Davy Crockett coonskin cap. That would, if you want to buy one, that would be an investment. If you could have bought one of those 30, 40 years ago and held on to it, it would, trust me, because that generation is now my parents' generation who are, have that disposable income in their 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, anything, okay, more recent. How about the rocket pack from the Rocketeer or the helmet?
Yeah.
Or an original Mighty Ducks jersey.
Or one of the dresses from Cruella.
No. The bobsled from Cool Runnings.
Oh.
I would take a baseball from the Sandlot.
It's surprise. Shock.
Or a pair of PF Flyers from the Sandlot.
Or a pair of glasses from the Sandlot.
Oh, Squints' glasses. Heck yeah.
Yeah. So, as we always do, guys, we rate series and movies on a series of 5 cups of pixie dust. Kate, for the series prop culture, how many cups of pixie dust?
I'll give it a 4.
Yeah, I'm with Kate. A couple episodes I might give 4.5, but I think overall the series I would give about a 4. It was. I mean, and the reason to me 4 is rewatchable, and rewatching this for I've seen it a couple years ago. Rewatching it now, it's rewatchable to me. So yeah, 4. What about you, Steve?
I'm giving it a 3.5 because there's just some episodes I just did not care about, but some I really love. So averaging it out, 3.5.
I'm going to go with a 4. I mean, this is a strong, rewatchable documentary series, and those aren't. And it's interesting that we've found that the ones that dive deeper into stuff and the Disney legends and such are typically the ones we like better. We liked The Boys better than Howard because it drove deeper into the Disney stuff.
Yeah.
So, and can we talk about how great it was to see Roger Sherman playing Feed the Birds at the piano in this, by the way? So
very cool.
Okay. Now, the other thing we've been covering so far is season 3 of The Mandalorian. Kate, we will catch you at Disney Plus News. Because
you didn't watch it?
Oh, Kate has not been watching Mandalorian, which, Pete, since Gina's not here, as our resident Star Wars fan, or the biggest fan probably, and watched the most stuff, thoughts about Chapter 21?
So this to me was the best episode of the season so far, and the first one that I really enjoyed. We got the story. A lot of the episodes, the story hardly has been moving forward. Very little go on. I felt like this episode, we got some forward momentum in the story. It had its kind of own background of getting the Mandalorians involved with helping Grief Karga. You kind of knew this was coming, right? They had the pirates in like episode 1 or 2. You knew they were, you knew they were going to come around again. So I wouldn't say it was
Jar Jar.
What?
Oh, wrong episode 1. Sorry.
Yeah, no, wrong episode 1. No, this has Swamp Thing or whatever the captain there is. But no, I enjoyed this episode. I thought the good action in it. There was a little bit of boring towards the beginning when the Carl Weathers calls for help, and then we get the example of, you know, the bureaucracy of the New Republic again, and we get to see it also made the other episode where that lady that appeared in this episode got rid of the scientist guy even more worthless, because what we learned about her in this episode was exactly the same thing we learned about in that 40 minutes of that episode. So you really didn't need it. But yeah, I enjoyed this one. I liked the action. It felt very Star Warsy to me. I loved the battle for the planet, the way they and then I liked how it wrapped up, and you kind of saw where the people of the Watch, the leader of the people of the Watch, the armorer there, is kind of understanding, hey, this Bo-Katan has conformed to our ways. Maybe she's the one to bring all the Mandalorians together. You kind of knew where this season is going to go there. That was what was behind the season. But I don't know. I really liked this episode. What did you guys think?
I'm just not very happy this season. I'm sort of bored. But
yeah,
like you, I'm glad that they finally moved it around, and it was a really sort of big hint that Bo-Katan is going to be sort of bringing the Mandalorians all back together. Like, this episode was like, if you can't figure it out, this is what we're doing. I agree with the other character, whatever she is, was like, what's going on? Like, let's get that story going if you're going to use it. If not, let's get rid of her. Like,
I feel like the first 4 episodes could have been 1.5 episodes maybe, or 1 episode, but this felt like it most of it needed to be there. So I said I enjoyed this one better. What about you, Derek? You seem doubtful.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if Star Wars is ever going to be able to come up with an original villain for any kind of its sequels, just because wasn't Moff Gideon the last season's villain, and he got taken out and now he's back?
Well, I think that's the biggest. Yeah, I agree. I think one of the biggest problems with this show is the first 2 seasons told a nice story. I mean, there was a lot of side missions in them, but it told a nice story. It wrapped up, and then they decided they didn't want it to wrap up, so they brought Grogu back. They brought Mando back, and now they don't have as good a story that they're trying to tell, I think, and the show is definitely struggling. I mean, I've said it before, and I said, even though I liked this episode, it's definitely the far and away the weakest. I wouldn't say it's as bad as the Book of Boba Fett, but it's definitely the weakest of the 3 Mandalorian seasons, and not as good as Andor either. So
I would agree, not as good as Andor. I also think there's massive telegraph of a Mandalorian on Mandalorian battle that's going to be coming up at some point, because if some of the Mandalorians have sprung Moff Gideon in the last scene, because if it's Beskar armor, that's Mandalorians, and so there will be Mandalorians against Mandalorians, and the Empire girl who scrambled the guy's brain is going to be back with Moff Gideon. I bet she's already working with him already. And this is just why are we watching this? It's truly this is 45 minutes out of my week. I could be watching anything else.
Well, we can stop watching it if you want. We don't have to watch it.
Well, I don't know. We always say we watch things so you don't have to. Guys, we're watching season 3 so you don't have to watch the whole thing.
Yeah. If you've never watched The Mandalorian, go back and watch season 1 and 2, and then just stop.
Yeah. I mean, And you'll note, though, okay, so the armor basically said Bo-Katan is now going to be in charge of uniting everybody. Does that mean she has the Darksaber?
No, she doesnent yet, right?
No, but we don't know because it was on the beach after she went and rescued Din Djarin or who
Mando,
Mando. We don't know who picked it up.
Yeah, I think we can. So you're only supposed to take the Darksaber,
but is rescuing the guy and that kind of physical thing, is that considered?
Yeah, I don't know.
Combat. Plus,
Yeah, I don't
do you really think the armor would tell Bo-Katan she's in charge if she didn't have the Darksaber? As strict as and if not, because I know Bo-Katan,
but I don't think she said that Bo-Katan was in charge. She said Bo-Katan is the one that could unite the different clans, because she's come to this clan, which was not this was not her clan,
right?
And she did conform to them, and that's why the armorer basically gave her permission to remove her helmet and said, you can unite all the clans in the way, so to speak. And I guess it turned out she did believe she saw the mythosaur eventually. We were arguing whether she believed it or not.
Which way? If it's the way, but yet she believes things differently, like the helmet thing, which way is the way?
I don't feel like permission. It was like, you need to take off your helmet. I feel like she was giving her a command. You need to take off her command. So now it makes me think, what is she trying to get at?
Yeah.
Right.
Plus, no, let's face it, the armor wants it that way. No one's telling us why. So, oh, come on. Nothing. No NSYNC fans. Come on. Backstreet Boys. Come on.
Tell me why.
Thank you. Okay. So
sorry, I didn't know I was up on the screen. I thought I was still down, but I was there with you.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, we've got three more episodes.
I think.
Of Mandalorian. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll get through it and really pray that season 4 turns into a movie, like a made-for-TV movie that's 2.5 hours long, and we can just go with that. So,
well, maybe it's time to conclude the Mandalorian, and hopefully season 4 will.
Season 4,
right. Yeah. They've already said they're right
after season 2, but
well, as I said, it would have been a great ending at season 2, and they chose not to. So
this reminds me of Huckleberry Finn, and stick with me on this. Mark Twain wrote the first 2/3 of Huckleberry Finn, and then set it down for 5 years because he didn't know how to end it. And when he ended it, because he needed the money, the ending was terrible. We had 2 seasons of Mandalorian. We've waited 2 years, and the rest is terrible. It's Star Wars version of Huck Finn. So, Kate, what have we got this week for some Disney Plus news?
We've got so much. Okay, kicking it off with Disney Plus news.
Is some of it good?
A live action Moana was announced this week. Despite this,
not good.
The director of the Disney Plus show that was announced has said that the show is very much still happening.
And the show is going to be animated, and the live action, The Rock is coming back as Maui. And the girl who voiced Moana is going to play Moana as like a 25-year-old, 14-year-old, which I guess if Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta convince us they're high schoolers.
Yeah.
He was so dreamy. Okay, next up, Muppets Mayhem, a mockumentary tells a series about Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem, will be available in its entirety on May 10th.
And we will be reviewing that.
I'm very excited for that. Next up, Bob Iger announced this week that Disney is looking at getting back the franchises that have been shared with other streaming services so that they will remain on Disney property. he also said that none of the large franchises will be sent to other streaming services. What are streaming?
Star Wars, Marvel, none of those are going to end up on Netflix or Amazon Prime.
No, I know, but what has been sent to other?
Well, for example, like Home Alone just got taken off Disney Plus again because it's due another rotation either on Netflix or Amazon or someplace like that. There are other chunks of Disney movies that they're looking at ending those relationships because they need people to actually stay with Disney Plus.
Got it. All right.
And we were talking about it earlier. Indiana Jones is the one Lucasfilm property that has none of has been on Disney Plus so far. So it'll be interesting to see if they're ever able to bring that back to Disney.
It's mostly on Amazon.
Yeah, it's on Amazon a lot for sure.
All right. And last and absolutely least, the Disney Plus live action Lilo and Stitch has cast several roles, including Lilo. Rumors are that Chris Sanders will reprise his role as the voice of Stitch. Listen, there are some things that should not be made into live action. This is one of them.
And guys, I'm going to have to take your opinions. Do we keep reviewing these live action remakes?
I was thinking with these announcements, for the most part, no.
Yeah. We will do
I think
Peter
that
Pan.
will be on a case-by-case basis.
We will do Peter Pan and Wendy at the end of
Will we?
Is that where I saw that they cast?
There is nothing else coming out in April.
Yes. No, this is true.
Wait, is that where I saw that they cast an actor with Down syndrome as one of the Lost Boys?
I have no idea.
Okay, I'll have to. I may have misquoted that.
It's possible. They definitely went. They definitely went very multicultural.
I love it. I mean, I think that's incredible if they did. I thought I saw a poster about it, but I could be mistaken.
Yes.
As one of the Lost Boys?
Yes. Yes, they did. I just looked
I
it up.
love that.
So, and this will be the first salvo of people going, wait a minute, that's not the race they were in the animated one. Which will amp up significantly for Little Mermaid, unfortunately.
Oh, it's already been all over for Little Mermaid. And
I know.
But
I think I don't remember who they cast, but Tinkerbell is an African American female.
I'm just curious if did people get this up in arms when Brandy was Cinderella back in the day?
Yeah, it wasn't on social media, but yes.
God, I loved that movie.
So, yeah, so people are idiots.
Fact.
It's so who cares to me.
Oh yeah, I know.
like is it a good actor and actress, and is the movie any good? That's all that should matter.
Fact.
Maybe and probably not. So
tell him the truth, Pete. You tell him.
Well, I don't want to. Looking forward to it is maybe a little too far, but I'm not minding the idea of a Little Mermaid one. Because I don't.
I think it will depend on how well it's done.
It's been 30.
It's gonna be so painful.
It's been 35 years. It's been I'm more okay with it when it's been a while.
Pinocchio was 70 years and it was horrid.
It was terrible. Yes, it was terrible. This is true. But
Casey and I were just talking about having to watch the because we were talking about all the things we haven't seen yet for Marvel, and he was like, "Oh, She-Hulk," and I was like, "You're gonna hate it," and he goes, "Why?" And I said, "The CGI is so bad."
And the story.
It wasn't the CGI.
The story.
Yeah.
So I would agree. We will take the live actions on a case by case basis. A lot of times it will be, is there anything else we can watch? Because none of the live actions have been as good as the animateds.
I would argue.
No. Okay. Argue what?
I was going to argue with Peter and Wendy. We should see what the reviews are. And if it gets trashed the way Pinocchio did, I don't think we should do it.
Or the way Ant-Man did.
We can skip Ant-Man. I don't care.
No, the new one.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Pete, did you see the new one yet?
I did not go to see it in theaters, which is, I went back and I looked, and it's only the second Marvel movie since Iron Man that I've not seen in theaters, and the other one was Thor: The Dark World.
Both
Awful,
horrid.
awful,
Yeah.
awful.
Oh, I'm sorry, and Eternals. So it's the third one.
Oh, we had to watch Eternals for. Excuse me, we watched Eternals for this one, and
Yes.
once was more than enough.
And I will watch it when it comes out, definitely. But it just, like, I don't mind that type of Marvel movie. I know we're getting off topic here, but
And-
like that's not an Ant-Man movie.
That's what I've heard. It's not an
That's an
Ant-Man
Avengers movie. The Ant-Man movies are light and fun and rather, pardon the pun, small scale. And but I mean, even the sequel, like Derek, you would like the first one. I think you liked the first one. You would like the second one. It's
would like
very
Ant-Man
similar in.
Okay.
It's very similar in tone. It's not this big, heavy, overarching villain or anything like that. And this one just seems more like an Avengers movie than an Ant-Man movie to me. And I don't know.
Am I gonna like the first Guardians? Because we're watching that come into the month. So am I gonna like the first Guardians movie?
Yes.
Yeah, I think you will.
Yes. I think
Yeah.
so. It surprised me. I remember seeing the preview for that and going, what is this movie? Like, there's no way I'm going to enjoy it. And I went and saw it. Love the Guardians movie. I think it's going to surprise you.
I was trying to think of like a movie to compare it to, because it gets compared to Star Wars a lot, and that's not really right.
No.
And I hated to do it because I was actually thinking of this earlier today. And I was like, I can't use this with Derek because he loves the movie so much. But I was thinking Ghostbusters only because.
Oh, you got to be real careful with that one.
Well, but let me explain. It's not that it's a similar movie, but that the tone of the movie is very, like, that movie never took itself seriously.
Pete, I think you're right. Yeah.
And the Guardians, especially the first Guardians movie, never takes itself seriously.
Agreed.
And see, if we want to get really off topic, I would argue Ghostbusters worked because it was so funny, but yet they played it completely straight. They played Ghostbusters straight, which is why it worked.
Yeah, and I wouldn't completely.
No, they did.
No, you did. You're right. They did, and I wouldn't quite go that far with Guardians, though. For the most part, they play it, except for Peter Quill, they play it pretty straight. But
okay, all right. Well, I said that's coming up into the month next week. Inspired by pop culture, and we wanted another movie that, for the most part, we figured we would like. We are going back and revisiting Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I will admit I have probably not seen this one 15 years.
Do you want to know what's funny?
All the time you yank my ears, Eddie.
I know what's funny. What do you think is funny?
I remember watching this movie. This movie actually scared me as a kid.
Oh yeah, the dip.
Yeah,
but horrid, horrifying.
But literally, when we were watching Prop Culture, and Christopher Lloyd was like, "Yeah,
Goes
people
to the
hated
smile.
me." Like when I dipped the shoe into the thing, and just watching that 15-second scene, and I was like,
No,
I don't
that poor
know if
little
I'm looking
shoe.
forward. I don't think I'm looking forward to watching this because of that one tiny little scene. Because, yeah.
Huh? I mean, that's that's torturing puppies. That's because it's literally the shoe's acting like a puppy. And
Oh God.
And we're back to Old Yeller again. So
It's gonna be great, but
next week we are doing Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Then we dive into some of the more recent releases, but we weren't going to talk about that because next week we're doing Who Framed Roger Rabbit, guys.
Yay!
And
I love this movie. Sorry, spoiler alert.
Thank you.
Yeah, I said I remember liking it, but again, I haven't seen it in probably 15 solid years.
I think I watched this. Didn't this come out roughly around the same time that Beetlejuice came out and Edward Scissorhands? Was this in the same?
Probably.
Probably around the same time as Beetlejuice. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Edward Scissorhands was more 90s.
Beetlejuice also scared the crap out of me, so it will be good to revisit these movies. And if you didn't know, at Walt Disney World, on the back side, on the the backstage side of one of the buildings, there's an outline of Roger Rabbit looking like he's going through a building.
Yes.
There's actually 2 references in Hollywood studios. If you look above the Hollywood and Vine. It's got Valiant and Valiant Private Detectives.
yeah.
And then there's
Oh, nice.
another one somewhere else too. Still.
And Pete, you're correct. Beetlejuice and Roger Rabbit both came out in 88.
And Edward
That's when I was born.
Edward Scissorhands was in 90. So not too
So
far
to
off.
me, so when I remember watching them, I mean, I would have been at least like 7. So they would have been, all of those movies would have been out for a minute. So it makes sense that I loop all of them together.
Yes, it does.
Yes. Yeah.
So
All right.
good. All right.
Guys, if you have suggestions on what we should watch, if you have another documentary that you love, if you have a movie that you just think is amazing, please do not send us bad movies that you want to see us not like, because there's going to be lots of those coming up.
Or do, and we can make it a really funny episode.
Well, I think like even though we didn't like Tron, like the episode, like discussing it was good, and then going into talking about our favorite video games and things. So it's still made for a good episode, even though the movie stunk.
Yes, but it makes for a long week when you know that's what you have to watch
That's
coming up.
fair.
This is true.
That's real.
Again, I'd never seen it. It was short. I'll give Tron that.
It seemed long, almost as long as some of these Mandalorian episodes. So we have new episodes coming out every Thursday on YouTube and all major podcasting services. For Pete, Steve, Kate, I am Derek. We are the Plus Platoon, and we will see you guys next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Plus Platoon. Be sure to subscribe to the Plus Platoon podcast to keep getting great content each week. Then head over to Apple Podcast and leave those 5-star reviews, as they help make the Plus Platoon visible to even more Disney Plus fans. Also, go to YouTube and like and subscribe to the Plus Platoon channel, where you can watch all future episodes live. If you have a question for the Plus Platoon, please send us an email to plusplatoon@gmail.com or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @plusplatoon.
The Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast and is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company or the Disney Plus streaming service. All opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the individual hosts and in no way reflect the views of the Walt Disney Company.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode, because the Plus Platoon is to be continued.